So the story goes that a guy commissions a painting from a Zen monk. Good morning. Is this a monastery? Are you a monk?
No, I'm not a monk. No, this is not a monastery.
An artist?
Yes, I'm an artist.
I want you to make me a cat.
What, you mean this?
No.
A painting?
No?
I could do a card. Quilling?
No.
How about a toy? How about an ink drawing? What do you want?
I think it's of a cat. Like, I'm not sure. I want something that speaks to the essence of cat. But the monk tells him, come back in 3 months.
Come back in 3 months.
So this monk spends a lot of time practicing drawing cats and doing the Sumi-e, the black ink on white paper, right? He's hanging out with cats, right? He's lots of cats at the temple, and he's crawling around with them and trying to become cat-like. So he's practicing. Finally, a guy comes in after the 3 months. And he's like, hey, I'm here for my painting. So the monk says, okay, hold on. And he rolls out his paper, puts the stones in each corner, right? Grinds the ink, gets out his brushes, prepares. Whole process takes about 30 minutes or so. And then draws a cat. The guy's like, what is going on here? I waited 3 months and you just drew it. Now, I like to think that the monk in response goes, that's what I like to think. But honestly, I don't know how the story ends other than the guy's really disappointed. So there's a question about whether the monk really drew the cat in about 3 minutes, or whether that 3 minutes is kind of the embodiment of his entire time with cats, with ink, while training as a monk. Like his entire lifetime goes into those 3 minutes. And that's what we're going to do over the next couple months.
That's questions I'll answer, I guess.
Let's talk about different kinds of arts and crafts that you've done before.
Well, I started young because my mother is an art and crafter person. I mean, I suppose nowadays they would call her a maker. She's done things like embroidery, what is it called? Thread punch, t-shirt painting, sweater painting. She's painted on pillowcases. Sewing, name any kind of sewing needle thing, she's done it. Cross stitch, crochet, knitting. She's even learned how to do, I forgot what it's called, the finer one where it's like teeny tiny little threads. Not quite lace, but like almost there. Right now she's into quilting. I never had patience for those kind of things, and I've always had kind of a grandiose mindset about it. I always figured someday I would be famous, so I tried things like drawing, writing. I'm okay at drawing. What really got me into drawing was the fact that I found out pretty young that I had this ability to look at a picture and basically copy it on another piece of paper without tracing. The only problem is it never translated into being able to draw a picture that was up here in my head and put it on the paper. You know, so I got frustrated pretty quickly with drawing. Also, coloring, for some reason, never translated for me, which is why it's kind of surprising that I would constantly try to do things like calligraphy, letter art, watercoloring, like I said, Chinese water painting. I kept trying those things because I always thought those kind of things were beautiful, and that, even with, I guess, little talent in drawing, you can make a very complex piece of art that almost anybody could enjoy, and you can personalize it any way you wanted. And it didn't really, in my mind, take a lot of different techniques to do it. But still, for whatever reason, I could never master it to my satisfaction. Even if I could get a few letters on the page, it was never consistent. I never thought it was beautiful or aesthetically pleasing, and I was partially making it for myself, and if I didn't find it aesthetically pleasing, why would I think anybody else would? From there, I focused mostly on writing. I've been told I'm a decent writer, but I never had the, what's the word? Stick-to-itiveness to keep going with it. And I really don't like the idea of rejection. So I was always afraid to try to continuously do it, improve, and then just be told, no, it's not good enough to be published, or not good enough to be shared, or anything like that, because I still feel like art is something you share with people. Why would you make it and lock it away in your house and nobody ever see it? That doesn't make sense to me. But I still have this desire to create things that are in my head, because again, it's like having something wonderful and not being able to share it because nobody can see inside my mind. So that's the reason why I continually try to find something that I can do that will create something I can share.
Dark. Makes up the ink pretty well.
I was thought you had to grind it longer.
Huh?
I thought you had to grind it longer.
I mean, if you want a lot of ink, sure. I don't know what color this is going to be. I haven't put it on the paper yet. Very absorbent. Nice. Okay. I was never very good at this. Trying to remember how to do it. So much more absorbent than the paper they gave me in the kit when I was like in middle school. So this is actually quite interesting.
Was it like one of those things you get from Borders bookstore or something?
Yeah,
A little $5 kit they have as you walk in the door.
basically. Wow, this is so different. It's almost amazing. Let's see if I can actually do it the right way. Trust me when I say this is the only one I can remember. Oops. A little bit too much of a curve there. Get a different color. Oh, nice. Very resplendent to that. Oops. Oh. Amazing, actually. This is, even after all this time, this is so much better. The quality of paper is just amazing, and how it absorbs. I mean, the lines and the quality of the brushes makes so much of a difference. I mean, this is after, what, over 20 years? Maybe a little less, a little more. I'm, what, 13, 14 years old, and I'm almost 40. And I'm drawing about as the same, if not better, without practice after all these years. And this is just bamboo. I mean, it's like one of the first lessons. I mean, that line, I think, is just amazing. I mean, can you imagine doing, like, actual calligraphy with this? The brand of ink. Look how smooth it is. That, to me, that's amazing. I mean, I've never done actual Japanese or Chinese calligraphy, and I'm not even very good at European calligraphies, so. I think this is gonna be fun. I tend to do what most artists tell you not to do and throw away the things I don't like after a while. So I've only got a handful of things that are pretty recent.
Okay, what you got?
Well, as far as drawing, I'll bring it up so you can see it. That actually may be relevant. This is a technique called Zen tangles. It's supposed to be a method of drawing that is meditative and
Turn it over.
oh. Zentangles only take like 15 minutes, and all you need is basically a piece of paper they call a tile. It's usually a 3.5 by 3.5 square, an ink pen, usually a fine liner, and a pencil, and some way to blend the pencil into the paper. This one doesn't have any pencil on it. As you can see, this one does. It's supposed to help create shadows and
The detail,
depth.
I love the shadows.
Yeah, basically it's very simple drawings that use lines, orbs or circles, and dots, and you put them together step by step. This one's called Aquafleur. The names are part of the art in a way, because they're not supposed to give you an idea of something specific, but just a general feeling of what it's supposed to be, I guess. Descriptive, you know, these things are an abstract art. They're not supposed to be specific things. But because once you get it down on paper, then it makes something very complex and in-depth, and your eye just kind of follows the whole piece. The idea is that there's no mistakes in Zentangle method. I mean, that's the reason why you draw everything in ink. You don't use the pencil to draw at all. Like something like this, you know, if done, you know, if I did it with more practice, they look so much more complex than they do. I'm a little rough at it. One of my favorites is this one, because all it is you start with a circle and you start making lines, and then what you do is they call an aura, and you kind of just I guess an outline of that circle and outlines of your original lines, and it makes kind of this shape that can fill a whole space if you wanted it to, or just a small part. It's actually pretty fun. So that's what I've been working on recently to help just relax and enjoy the drawing process again. Let's see. Because of like coloring and stuff, I've actually started doing things like, this has got fur on it, paper filigree, or otherwise known as quilling, because the strips come pre-colored, you know, and so you don't have to worry about coloring or shading. And again, it's another simple thing that when you put it together, it can become very complex. What got me into this was a random YouTube video that I saw of a Russian artist who used large pieces of paper to create very intricate and detailed portraits. And she's actually in Russian galleries and stuff like that. And she used the technique called quilling for her portraits. This is one piece I did that also shows how I like jewelry making, but it also shows how I'm not very good sometimes in execution, which is why this has never gone anywhere except my jewelry box. But I do enjoy things like multimedia and things. This one's a little bit better, but this does not have the quilling on it. It has a pre-made flower that I saw at the craft store, but then I put it together myself with the ribbon and everything. This is another design. There was supposed to be a headband that didn't quite work out. I was playing around with fabric as a possible means for color. and maybe even using certain techniques to actually use the paper for quilling, or not paper, fabric for quilling, making it more of like a mix between paper and fabric. So these are cloth covered buttons. I was going to make this into a headband. The idea was a lot better in my head than, again, executed. The headband didn't stay on my head, and didn't stand out enough to really make a very good decoration. But sometimes, you know, things actually work better than I expect. Like this mixed media piece, I made kind of over a 2-day period without any plan. I needed a box to put Valentine's in. I was going to hang out with a bunch of ladies the day after Valentine's Day, and the theme was Valentine's. So I made this box, foam core board. I measured it, shaped it myself, covered it in burlap. This is quilling and a piece of random ribbon that I had. I actually think it turned out relatively well, considering, again, of course, there's mistakes. You know, it's not very well cut in certain places. You can see the foam core board in areas, you know, but again, this was just, you know, a fun craft that I still kind of got to share, which made me happy. The other thing that I've been trying to do, which I actually forgot to bring down with me, this is a acrylic pour that I actually thought was a fail, but my son liked it so much because it reminded him of a Christmas gift he got that was this bath toy that was basically a Play-Doh that made bubble bath. And the idea was you shaped it into a volcano, and you put a bath fizzy in it, and then you put it on the bottom of the bathtub, you ran the bath water, and eventually the volcano would erupt. So basically the volcano clay was black in color, and the fizzies were pink, red, and orange. And he saw that and he's like, that looks like my bath. That looks like my bath. So I kept it around, even though I don't particularly like it. But he did. So that's, I gotta fix that. That's going to be my family wall area. I made that painting for my husband as he gave me a prompt, and that's what I came up with. It's acrylic paints with paper on a canvas board. Not one of my favorites, but the words are nice, and I usually make up my own sayings and words for things. I'm told I'm pretty good at it. Can't imagine how you do it.
Do what?
Like in one breath, like just
Yeah.
Inhale.
Inhale, then as you exhale, you draw the circle.
might try painting their feet today.
What is it about their feet?
I don't know. I think it's kind of a underappreciated part of the cat. You know, that people don't think about how, because cats don't have hands, I guess. How they use their paws. Like you just missed the one cat using its paw on the other cat. But, how they communicate with their ears and their whiskers and their tails, and how important their paws are. I mean, I think their paws are one of the things that make them unique because they have retractable claws. Like owls that are silent at night when they fly, because of their wing feathers. Their paws are part of why they're silent, because of how they're built. And the fact that, I think their paws are pretty flexible. I mean, they're not like hands, like great apes have more like hand-like paws, hands in the front, but cats' hands are able to scoop. So if you think about it, it's like almost like a mitten, but they're able to scoop it. I mean, I've seen cats use their paws to grab things. I don't know, I just think they're an important part of the cat.
I'm trying to wonder why my pictures look kind of childlike. Maybe a little too simplistic. Oh. I've decided this is your enemy, huh? Attack. You're distracting me. Kitten. Maybe they're too simple. Maybe I'm using too much pressure. I've done some watching of YouTube, and there have been a couple of tutorials to explain the different kinds of brushes. Really? You are something else. This is a finer tip. It might help me. Whoops. I already messed up. if I had like huge like calligraphy paper or something, I might want something like that. But when I think of cat, I don't think big. I think like small and flexible, lithe. I don't think big. I don't think tiger. I don't think lion. I think small. Yeah, something's off today. I don't know, this is harmony, I guess. I mean, everything looks naive, childlike, no perspective. I suppose if I was better at practicing Zen, I would say I probably need more meditation. I mean, the idea is not to be perfect, but the idea is, I guess, to use your understanding and connectedness to the material to express what the subject represents. Like they say, bamboo represents strength and perseverance. They're always green, even in winter, that kind of thing. If I were to be clinical about it, I would say most people would look at cats and see curiosity, which is why a lot of the times when they're painting a cat, they paint it looking at something. But not really, if you think of cat. The ears are always forward and curiosity. When they're looking at something. And of course, whiskers. Something like that. Like that grasshopper, I don't know, gives me peace. Even though it's very simple. For some reason, to me, that says grasshopper better than any of these cats say cat. Maybe I need to look at something more simple. I think I'm done.
$47 million! I'm the cat! See, I'm the cat! See, I told you! I'm the cat! I always use your stinky old litter! Look how I love it!
Hello? Can you see me? Is it working? My face is not in view. There we go. Meow. 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 bought the pre-mating, but I kind of like doing it with this because it kind of just starts the whole process. And it just kind of gets your mind ready to think, oh, I'm about to do this painting, right?
So. I never know how much ink to make. Do you, have you ever heard of, the, excuse me, the writing method that teaches kid to write from left to right, top to bottom? Well, sometimes this feels kind of like this because, you know, I have my ink stone at the top. I have my brushes to my left. I mean, even though most kids, I guess, are right-handed, but, and it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a setup. And again, it just kind of helps with the process, I guess.
Well, what do you want to say about the whole process and, when you started and where you are now?
Well, at first, I was a little nervous. I was more concerned about making the perfect picture for your project. But and it didn't help when I looked up pictures of what some other people drew and they were calling Sumi. So it's like I had this idea. It's like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. But then I keep forgetting that I am not a what's the word? I'm not a realist artist. I do better in broader concepts, more abstract. And so when I realized that, and I thought about like when I did Zen tangles and stuff like that, it's like, okay, just let go of the idea of this perfect figure of a cat and just think of like the general shape, because every time I did something like that, I liked the result better personally. So when I did that and I found out this basic shape that I liked, it just felt right. To me, it felt like, yes, I was capturing what I wanted and that it was something that I could play with. Like the final drawing I did, it's not the same as the first drawing I did of a cat, with the brushes. And even though I probably didn't do it as often as maybe the monk would have done in the story, I still, by the end of it, I felt more comfortable with the brushes. I felt like I understood how the brushes worked a little better. And even though, I had an idea, if I put the brush down and I do this stroke, I should get X. Even if I don't necessarily get X, I can say, okay, well, what if I did this and then did this? Do I still get a cat? And the answer is, well, yes, because it's not some perfect line drawing of a cat. It's an abstract shape that looks like a cat and still gets the basic idea of cat across. And I guess to me that's kind of what the interesting thing is about this process, is that if I could basically boil down whatever I want to draw to its basic shape, I can still get a feeling of whatever that thing is doing.
Hello again.
Hello.
Do you have my painting?
Yeah, just one moment. Here.
What is this?
It's your painting.
This took 3 months?